Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're breaking down a piece of pop culture mythology that is honestly just as unexpected as it is epic. Today we're looking at this wild conceptual mashup that literally takes two completely different cinematic universes and just slams them together. We're going to deconstruct a legendary, albeit hypothetical crossover, one that pits a relentless hunter of the night against an ancient petrifying force of myth. So settle in, because we've got some incredibly vivid text to unpack for you today.
She wore a gold crown, like a blade in the air. Just let those words sit with you for a second. It immediately sets a tone, doesn't it? It's gothic, it's highly poetic, and it instantly feels incredibly dangerous. That imagery right there is our entry point into the beautifully dark source material we're analyzing today.
Section 1. A mythic crossover concept.
Coming out of that dramatic atmosphere, let's establish exactly what we're looking at here. What we have is a visceral, incredibly tight, 150-word poetic transcript of a fictional cinematic showdown. Specifically, this actually originates from a concept trailer by the YouTube channel Skibidi Power. They dreamed up this massive 2026 scenario, envisioning a world where Wesley Snipes' iconic vampire hunter Blade crosses paths with Angelina Jolie, embodying the terrifying myth of Medusa. Now, this isn't a script for a 3-hour movie. It's more like a condensed, high-octane mood board made entirely of words. It's a wildly creative, fan-made visualization of a theoretical battle that pushes these two legendary characters to their absolute limits.
Section 2. Profile. Mother of Ruin.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that in any great fight analysis, a classic tale of the tape, you really have to look at the competitors to appreciate the stakes. And we're starting with the terrifying lore of Medusa, dubbed here as the Mother of Ruin. The source text absolutely does not treat her like your standard comic book villain. No, it treats her like a living natural disaster. The descriptions used are purely elemental: eyes like broken thunder, voice like holy flame. See how the text deliberately strips away any modern context? It explicitly states she existed long before the banners, long before the press. She isn't something you can reason with or fight with modern tactics. She's presented to us as a primal, almost divine force of nature that existed way before human civilization even started keeping records.
And just look at the sheer, devastating scale of her power captured in this fragment. Whole empires lost their names. Not just armies, entire empires, completely erased from history. The text warns us that it only takes one curse in the dark and just one single glance from her, and you're done. It's absolute, uncompromising annihilation. It really taps into our deepest fears, doesn't it? That fear of ancient things that simply cannot be fought. The kind of power that makes all our modern technology and weapons feel completely useless.
The brave turn to marble under a dead black sun. The text here really wants you to feel the utter hopelessness of facing her. It doesn't matter how brave the warrior is, courage literally means nothing to her. They just turn to stone beneath a ruined sky.
A dead black sun. Just pause and take a moment to imagine the absolute cosmic dread conveyed by just those 4 specific words. This isn't just a physical threat anymore, right? It's an existential one. The environment itself seems to die when she's present.
So the crucial point is that her threat ultimately comes down to her ancient pedigree. This entity who wears a stone crown is impossibly old and impossibly powerful. According to the text, she can bring the giants down. She has witnessed the entirety of history because, as it says, she remembers it all. And most terrifyingly, she is described as being older than the sea. Think about that. She has outlived empires, giants, and the very oceans themselves.
Section 3. Profile. The relentless hunter.
Let's move to our second combatant and see how this builds. We're shifting tone entirely here, stepping away from an ethereal, godlike deity and grounding ourselves with a gritty, seasoned, relentless hunter. Where Medusa is described in these cosmic, ancient terms, he's defined by his grueling physical pursuit. The text tells us he has chased the blood and moon. He has walked through ash. This is a guy deeply grounded in the dirt and the grime of a never-ending war. He isn't a force of nature. He is a battle-worn survivor who physically walks through the fiery remnants of his battles. He has fought the fang and shadow. This phrase perfectly captures his gritty, trench warfare nature. He fights in the dark, against literal monsters. And the text makes this very clear assertion about his mindset. Despite all this horror, he has never once looked back. He only moves forward. He's pure momentum, driven by lethal intent.
And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental contrast of this entire crossover concept. Just look at the tail of the tape side by side.
On one side, Medusa, defined by a gold crown, a holy flame, and an existence older than the sea. On the flip side, Blade, defined by chasing blood, walking through ash, and fighting the fang and shadow. It is the ethereal, ancient deity standing against the gritty, ash-covered monster hunter. It's a total mismatch on paper, and frankly, exploring those impossible limits is exactly why fans are so drawn to creating these kinds of mashups.
Section 4. The inevitable clash.
Which brings us to the climax of the transcript. The tension really starts to ramp up here, because these two vastly different worlds are about to inevitably collide. The text tells us there is a mother of ruin waiting underneath. The unstoppable force is walking right into the domain of the immovable object. The relentless hunter, the guy who has never once looked back, is walking blindly into a trap. He's descending into the domain of something impossibly ancient, something that has just been waiting for him in the dark.
And as he approaches, the text gives us these incredible, catastrophic environmental cues that just stack right on top of each other. First, the ground starts shaking. Then, the temple starts to bleed. Third, ancient names wake. And finally, every wall will sing. The tension builds to this absolutely apocalyptic level right before the final sequence of one look, one fall. The very architecture of the world is reacting to their impending collision.
So it all leads to this final, provocative thought. We've looked at the hunter who chases the blood, and we've examined the stone-crowned deity who literally erases empires. I want to leave you with this to ponder. Who survives when the fang and shadow meet the dead black sun? It's a stunning, conceptual mismatch, beautifully articulated in just 150 words. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the limits of the stories we can build.